Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors Workshop for July 11th. Before I get started, many of us have meetings later this evening, so we're going to limit this to no later than an hour and 45 minutes. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'll open it up for homeowner comments first. I think Jason Rowland signed up first, so you're up.
Jack, are we running the timer also?
Yes, 3 minutes, please, because we have a lot of people signed up.
My name is Jason Rowland. My address is 1408 Stickley Ave. Respectfully to the CROA board, many folks today are going to speak about different positions in our governing docs, legal opinions, and financial reasons. But I'm going to speak to just some lesser but just as valid concerns. As a volunteer on the Artisan Park Committee, I spent more hours involved in every detail of this operation: website design, finding vendors, repair of CCTV systems, interviewing a club manager. All of these things add up to tons of hours, and I'm sure that everyone on the CROA board can appreciate the amount of hours because you put them in as well for all of Celebration. But my wife constantly asks me, when is it enough? Why are you doing it? Why are you getting stressed out of it? Why aren't you focusing on your own business instead of Artisan Park and the clubhouse? And she's right, but that's the problem here. CCMC's own admission is to say that it's the Artisan Park Committee's responsibility to manage or provide direction and oversight to the general manager. But what if you had an Artisan Park Committee that didn't care? What if we didn't put the hours in? Can we count on CCMC as a management company to step in, locate vendors, find solutions, or even just run the clubhouse in the way it should be run? In a few years, some of us on the APC won't be around, and I don't think that we can expect that new members of the APC are going to be experts in the fields of food and beverage, finance, operations, and everything else, just as CCMC has admitted that they're not experts in these areas. And I think there's been demonstrations to prove that they are not experts in those areas of finance, food and beverage controls, inventory, and other things. So basically what I want to say is the only thing that makes sense here is to select a management company that does bring all of these things to the table, that are experts in these areas, that offer support, controls, and everything else that a business like the Artisan Park Club needs to run smoothly. And that would be Evergreen Management, in my opinion, and not CCMC. And that's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rob Frame.
Promise to be much faster. Robert Frame, 1409 Stickley Avenue. I've only been living here for a year. I really enjoy Artisan Park, and I think the good news is everybody here on CROA is very nice. I've got a chance to meet a few of you. I don't think there's any ulterior motives here. The people on Artisan Park board are very nice, and I've gotten a chance to meet both Steve and Susan, and they're also very nice. But I did attend 2 meetings where a representative from CCMC said that because they don't specialize in running a restaurant or a bar, that we should seek another management company. I attended 2 separate meetings where that was stated. So that's part of the reason that we're here. You say we should seek a new management company, so okay, we will. Just another point I want to bring up is because of their lack of expertise running a restaurant or a bar, I think just because of that, they don't meet your criteria in terms of a new management company. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Gerald Barr.
Gerald Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. I've been a resident of Artisan Park since it opened in 2005. I'm going to read you something from the Celebration Resident Owners Association Incorporated. It's called the Board of Directors Standard of Conduct. It says conflict of interest. A board member that declare any possible conflict of interest to the Board of Directors. This includes if you have a close friend, if you're an employee, business partner, or associate. I would ask the president of the board to poll each and every board member to ask them this. I have also Googled each and every one of you, and I have gone out to the community and sought other information relative to some of those Googles and to find out what your work history is. Thank you.
All right, David Hans.
Hi, I'm David Hansen, 1111 Tapestry and Tapestry Drive in Artisan Park. I stand here in support of the Artisan Park Committee to move to Evergreen rather than continue with CCMC for three main issues that I have with working with CCMC personnel. First of all, I'm on the maintenance subcommittee, and so I'm having to deal with a lot of these things myself. One is the lack of RFP support, request for proposal support. I found right away that one of the projects was our pergolas, that we got bids in over $30,000, and at that point, you know, you should have an official RFP with specs and be able to compare and make sure we get the right contractor. I was asking for an RFP template, and they couldn't come up with one. You know, we need help in specification development, negotiating on pricing. All these things are left to volunteers. I don't think that's the best way to ensure we're getting the best pricing. Maintenance support, another area where we could have used more support. Vendor options, we're given a vendor or two, and but what is the experience with those vendors? What's their standardized pricing, or did they give another portion of the celebration a better deal? Preventing maintenance inspections. We could have used some walkthroughs by some people that are familiar with maintenance issues, and sharing of problems and solutions. I understand in one of the pools somebody treated the pool deck and it's now very slippery. Stuff like that, you know, we need to share solutions and problems and how to go about fixing them. Insurance, that happens to be my background before I retired. I found that the Celebration Joint Committee is the named insured, and I was concerned about directors and officers' liability, and I'm still not comfortable with that, even though I did get a certificate of insurance modified saying that it's D&O insurance applies down to the subcommittee level. Business interruption, the cafe operations, if there should be a fire there, we could actually get insurance to protect the loss of business revenue for $450 a year.
Thank you. All right, Eileen Barr.
I'm over 3 minutes, so I'm bringing a partner along, and you can either ask Jerry to read the last 2 pages, or I'll read it myself, whatever you like. Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. The Artisan Park Service Area Committee search for management that better addresses the need of the clubhouse and grounds is the result of an organic growth process of a maturing community. Jerry and I bought during the developer's tenure while the clubhouse was still subsidized. Everything was great. But I had doubts that the restaurant would survive the transfer to Artisan Park management. To my very, very pleasant surprise, the restaurant has not only survived, but the community wanted to have the hours of operation expanded. They also spent the money to improve the kitchen. One thing I don't want is for decisions about my restaurant, gym, grounds, and multi-purpose room to be made by a group of residents who live in other parts of Celebration, namely the CROA board. The original model for management of the Artisan Park service area was for one general manager with some clubhouse restaurant expertise who would run everything with very little input from other Celebration employees, including upper management. But in the last few years, as the demand for clubhouse activities, including the restaurant, grew, it became clear that all the power being in the hands of one person, the general manager, was not working well, and there was an increased call by the community for better and more updated manager, and that's over a number of years, not just started recently. With the change of managers last September, a number of CCMC employees, including IT, human resources, communication, and management, had to begin devoting time to the service area on a regular basis, especially during the transition. Those employee hours spent on the Artisan Park service area are the basis of the increased fees that are now being discussed by the board. It is clear that a higher monthly payment for Artisan Park households is going to happen. The board needs to be honest with Artisan Park homeowners and with themselves. In my opinion, going forward, Artisan Park households are going to be charged an increased monthly fee to cover the cost of CCMC employees' hours spent on the Artisan Park service area. These extra fees will not disappear even if CCMC remains the management company for the Artisan Park service area. And CROA wants to charge top dollar for Artisan Park's use of CCMC employees. There are better choices for the management of the Artisan Park service area. Evergreen, for example, is offering, as part of their monthly fee, help with IT, communication, maintenance, human resources, and management issues. So when you compare apples and apples, Evergreen is a much better deal for the bread and butter issues of Artisan Park. But there is one big important difference, and that is expertise in clubhouse management. In response to a request from the committee to CCMC to provide a continuation of Doc Terry's, a consultant in restaurant services contract, a meeting with the Artisan Park and CCMC was held on January 23rd, 2017. The first time that Doc Terry came in to do an operational audit, the cost was split between Artisan Park and CCMC. In a letter sent to the Artisan Park Committee on May 1st, Pat Watson wrote that at the January meeting, and this is a direct quote, CCMC stated that as a company, we do not have another club or restaurant in our portfolio like the Artisan Park Club, and that food and beverage operations is not an area that we specialize. CCMC works with the Artisan Park Service Area Committee to select a general manager. The general manager is considered the subject matter expert for running a restaurant operation. That is just not acceptable. And in my opinion, it would be a breach of fiduciary responsibility for the CROA board to insist that Artisan Park continue to use a company that will not and cannot help our bottom line. Other management companies do offer expertise in clubhouse management, including staffing, inventory management, advertising, menu planning, etc. All of this is very important to the Artisan Park community. And I'd like to point out that you can't break it into bits and pieces. Our restaurant operation goes out to the pool, it goes to various other areas, we've got a gym, we've got a back room, so it's a total thing, it's a total package. Many new activities are being added to the scheduling, bringing lots of new faces into the clubhouse, and everything is open to all. The purchase of food and drink is optional. Everyone can enjoy the clubhouse. Coffee and tea is available for residents when the club is open. Many people come in and with their computers to enjoy a workplace that is out of the house. The restaurant has continuously run at a deficit, and the goal is to get to a break-even point while also expanding the offerings of activities to Artisan Park residents. Under our new manager, who pays close attention to what customers want, Artisan Park is moving in the right direction, but he needs specialized help that is not offered by CCMC CCMC. A successful clubhouse increases quality of life and increases home value, so that the approval of an appropriate management company is very important to all. Artisan Park homeowners, and as all 615 owners covered by the service area, are also members of CROA. A successful and well-run clubhouse should be important to the board. The board needs to put aside emotion and make a decision based on the facts. The board and the committee also need to keep in mind that the controlling documents state that interactions
Eileen,
between the
excuse me.
two...
Have
I
you got
just
much
got one
more?
more sentence.
Is that including her time?
No, I'm done. She was just standing by.
That's 6
I have
minutes.
one sentence. Let me start again, because this is important. The board and the committee also need to keep in mind that the controlling documents state that interactions between the two should be guided by 2 words: reasonable and cooperation. I hope the board has come here today to work with the AP committee and the AP owners to find a solution that works for all, and not just to say no.
Right.
Thank you, Jerry.
Eileen, Ruth?
While she's getting up here, if you see me texting sometimes, Debbie asks questions now and then about who's up there or a point, or like with Eileen, she said, is she past time? And I said, she's using someone else's time.
As long as you don't cheat on trivia with it, we're fine.
I just want to make sure that, I want to make sure that it looks, I believe in dealing above board. I wanted to let you know what I was doing right there.
I'm texting friends.
I don't know how to press.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, please.
Okay. My name is Eileen Ruth. I live at 1316 Artisan Avenue West. I am currently the vice chair of the Artisan Park Committee. The following was passed and unanimously, by a unanimous vote of the committee, and hand-delivered to your chairman this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we are writing to advise you of our exercise of certain rights and authority granted to the Artisan Park Committee pursuant to the amended and restated supplement to the Community Charter of Celebration Residential Properties, Artisan Park, dated June 26, 2009. The supplemental agreement, which states that the committee shall be the governing body with respect to the operation and management of the Artisan Park service area. These rights and authority have been expressly and specifically confirmed by the legal opinion from your own attorney. We hereby request that you comply with the board's obligation under Section 8.5 of the supplemental agreement and abide by the decision to engage a new management agent. The only 2 grounds under which your board may refuse to abide are set forth in Section 8.5. Neither is remotely applicable to our request. Any such assertion by your board would be baseless and demonstrate that your board is not acting in good faith or in accordance with the supplemental agreement and is taking upon itself, without right or authority, the rights and duties of the committee. Furthermore, any such action would not be in the best interests of the residents of Artisan Park. We also wish to make clear our intent with respect to the future management agreement that may be entered into between CROA and the Capital Consultants Management Corporation, CCMC. Pursuant to Section 8.4 of the supplemental agreement, the committee has an unqualified right of approval that must be granted by the committee prior to the selection of a management agency for the Artisan Park service area. We hereby advise you that no such approval will be forthcoming with respect to the selection of CCMC as the management agent for the Artisan Park service area. On behalf of the Artisan Park Committee, thank you.
Okay. Mike Graves.
Good afternoon. Mike Graves, Artisan Park resident at 1204 Roycroft Avenue, here with my wife Bethany over there. She elected me to come up and speak. We've been Artisan Park residents for 10 years. I've become very educated on this topic over the past week or so with the help of the Artisan Park Board. And we're here basically simply to state that we do fully support and trust the Artisan Park Board's decision in switching from CMCC to the Evergreen Management Company for a variety of different reasons, which I think are going to be stated or have been clearly articulated. For what it's worth, I have neighbors on the three sides of me that couldn't be here today: Dave and Don Cunningham, Nell and Ken Lewis, and Matt and Heather Tim, who also support the decision as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Thomas Easterly.
My name is Thomas Easterly, and I live at 1231 Wright Circle, apartment 204 in the Artisan Park condominiums. And I retired here just about 2 years ago, and I didn't want to be involved in any of this kind of stuff. And I was happy that we had people like you and like the service committee that are. But I feel compelled, and I brought my wife too, because we really own 2 units, so she has a chance, to say that I agree with them. It looks like we did need to do the actions that we're going forth to do with Evergreen, and I fully support their decision, and I hope that you will too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Janet Easterly.
So I'm Janet Easterly, representing our second condominium unit, 1220 Vox Boulevard, number 303, and I support the committee's decision.
Okay, thank you. And Kathy Gordy.
I'm Kathy Gordy. I'm at 1310 Celebration Avenue, and I'm on the opposing side from the proposal. Not so much necessarily that I disagree with the thought, but what I've come to find out is I'm a little disappointed in the transparency of information presented. With a change of this magnitude, I would expect a more thorough and pragmatic approach. Under the rules and regulations and strategic statement of the club, it says the clubhouse has a cafe. It doesn't say it has a restaurant. It started as probably a snack shop and it moved to a cafe. So it's supposed to be a simple place to obtain some food. The biggest seller at the clubhouse is generally hamburgers and sweet potato fries. So it's not supposed to be a complicated process. The Community Association Institute suggests when you have a change in a management contract, it's not to be taken lightly. It's supposed to be approached in an organized manner, should be explained and communicated. We have a relatively new committee. Most of the committee members have been in the actual format for less than 2 years. 2 were appointed this year for replacements for a couple resignations, so that it is a new committee. The major complaint I've heard is claims of poor communication between the board and committee. Again, under the CAI, it suggests, rather than complain about inadequate service, that the committee should communicate their concerns, attempt to resolve the problems, maybe formalize and enhance controls and process, to me, let go of the past and try and move forward. CCMC provides a continuity and a connection to the Celebration HOA as a whole, and I think that's an important piece that should be maintained. The Artisan Park service area, again, a snack shop, a cafe. A lot of the discussion that I heard originally came from a $5 subsidy per household because we're running a cafe. And that cafe, you have cooks and servers, dishwashers, we got cleaning. All those costs incurred along with normal food service would generally relate to some kind of a subsidy. 2016, the subsidy was supposed to be around $60. 2017, it should be quite a bit less. I think it's $37,000 compared to $22,000 for 2017. So it's gotten smaller. The recent Financial Committee reported that the cafe is meeting, indeed, budget. And the proposed change to Evergreen actually just increases my cost in one pocket and puts it in the other. So maybe my subsidy to the cafe goes down, but my subsidy to administrative fee goes up. And I believe that the committee, although probably has gone forward with, I'll go ahead and pass. I'm going to pass it to my husband.
All right, that's Don or Dan?
Don.
Don Gordy.
I did have one thing. I do have a petition that a couple of my neighbors signed besides me.
Okay.
And we have 3 emails, which will relate to Don's part.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm opposed to the change. I'd just like to state that since this is a significant change impacting all Artisan Park residents, there are 615 households that are basically comprised of seasonal summer vacations. Many residents are absent, unable to attend meetings, and less likely to be fully informed of the change that is being proposed. There is no urgency for a change in the management company. I would urge that they take a pause, they develop a thorough analysis of a comparison of CCMC and Evergreen. They carefully planned steps to present to the residents in a pragmatic, unbiased, well-organized manner with a written format that could be easily followed and someone could form an opinion if this is the direction that the residents want to take in Artisan Park. I think there should be a survey of all 615 residents to find out at large, to find out if they truly want to embark on this proposal of changing, because it is a big move for the community. We have 3 emails from additional residents that would ask that we take a pause and we learn more about the information in regard to this proposed change. I believe that the AP committee has failed to provide transparency, compelling information, or analysis to residents on the cost benefits for proposed change other than the posted Evergreen proposal on the Artisan Park website. An organized written analysis has not been presented or shared. The times of the ATP committee workshops are not varied to reach all segments of the community at large, usually held between 9 and 5. And this is a conflicting with work schedules, limited communications about the workshops, and no minutes or recordings are taken and posted for all residents to be informed of the discussions. So it is therefore, I believe that the AP committee should take a pause, provide a pragmatic, unbiased, and well-organized analysis, review to the neighborhood, and poll, measure the neighborhood sentiment on this significant change, because changing the APSA management company will impact and have profound results on the future of Artisan Park. So therefore, I think it should be more than a handful of people that are yay or nay. I think the better course of action is to take a full polling or vote to determine if this is the direction we want to go. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. All right, Rand Saylor.
My name is Rand Saylor. I live at 1401 Celebration Avenue, Unit 406. I was recently appointed to the committee. I had a speech talking about the needs of the club. I think that's been covered. What I will say, and it was interesting, Mr. Gordy just spoke about the need for a comparison. I guess I would say that how do you compare when someone, and I am not attacking CCMC. CCMC has stated their position, which is A, they don't know how to run a restaurant, and B, all you get is the presence of a manager. We don't support him, we don't train him, we don't follow up. How do you compare that to a proposal which provides for all the back office, all the support, the depth that a very large management company with 7 other restaurants that employ over 160 people, we're sort of comparing apples not to oranges, but to watermelons in this case. The other thing I'd like to say, I'm very new here. We've owned for a while, but I moved down 2 months ago, and when I was asked about this process, I was very naive. I said, okay, let me look at the documents, let me look at the legal opinion, and let me look at what CCMC has said. And my response to other committee members and residents was, why are you in a lather here? CROA will see this is A, you're right, B, much better for the residents of Artisan Park, and therefore much better for the celebration as a whole. Unfortunately, it's become pretty evident that your board, instead of taking this as an exercise of our rights, you're taking it as some sort of rebellion that needs to be crushed because we don't know what we're doing. Two things there. One, we do know what we're doing and we've done our homework. And secondly, it's not your decision. Your only role legally is to put forth a specific violation of 8.5. If you can't do that, you have to abide. And if you don't, you're acting in bad faith, and there's no two ways about it. And if you say no, we are not disappearing into the woodwork with our heads hanging low. We will continue to press this in every possible forum, and we will continue to start raising issues about CROA's management. We don't want to do it, but if we're going to be treated unfairly, we're going to take off the gloves.
Jim Hyman.
My name is Jim Hyman, and my address is 1401 Celebration Avenue, Unit 310. I'm speaking this afternoon in my capacity as chairman of the Artisan Park Committee, which unanimously supports a change in the management agent for the Artisan Park service area. I will begin with an extended quote. Quote, "The CROA board should honor the committee's request to change management unless the CROA board has good cause to refuse a change. Good cause reasons to deny a change include that the request would violate the community-wide standard, the celebration charter, or constitute a material deviation from the general plan of development for the property," unquote. These are the words of CROA's own attorney, who reached the same unambiguous conclusion that the APC has reached. The lawyer did raise 6 possible points that needed to be addressed in any new management contract. Both the APC and the management agent we have selected have reviewed and agreed to all of these points. To keep the CROA board fully informed, the APC, members of its finance subcommittee, and the CEO of the proposed management agent have provided a great deal of information and answered many questions. However, the whole situation really comes down to this. As the elected body responsible for the operation and management of the Artisan Park service area, the APC and not CROA is expressly empowered to change our management agent. For better or for worse, the governing documents explicitly give Artisan Park homeowners the exclusive use of the Artisan Park service area's amenities, which all Artisan Park homeowners pay for in addition to their CROA fees. Those same governing documents explicitly give the Artisan Park Committee the authority to run the Artisan Park service area. It should be noted that in its approximately 12 years of operation, the Artisan Park service area has been entirely funded by the homeowners of Artisan Park. We operate with our own budget. The Artisan Park service area has never spent or requested a penny of CROA money for the operations of its amenities. Whether or not members of the CROA board agree with this change is not relevant. The APC is exercising the authority granted to us by the governing documents. The CROA board is obligated to put aside any personal concerns about our decision. Unless you can demonstrate a violation of the community-wide standards, the celebration charter, or any of the other governing documents, you must abide by our decision in this matter. The CROA board should understand that the APC will defend its authority to run the Artisan Park service area, as it has been explicitly authorized to do in the governing documents. The whole point of this change is to improve all aspects of the Artisan Park service area by engaging a well-respected management company which has extensive experience and expertise in all areas of management that we require and desperately need. It would be without justification for the CROA Board to assert that our ability to adhere to the community-wide standard would be threatened by engaging this new and experienced management agent. To the contrary, all aspects of our operation and the Artisan Park community would be enhanced by this change. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Playa.
Bill Palea, 1411 Celebration Avenue, apartment 205. I did not come with a prepared statement, but made a couple of notes while I was listening. Basically, make two comments. One, this shouldn't be about winning and losing. It should be about progress. And I hope at the end of this meeting, you'll be able to discern what kind of progress we made here today. You're 6, you got about 30 people out there. You multiply that by an hour and 45 minutes. That's a lot of time put in. So I hope we have some progress by virtue of this meeting. I reflect on something my friend Fred Brewers said to the board when I think I was sitting on the board at that time, in terms of the rights of the Artisan Park Service Area Committee versus the rights of CROA, and what the committee was able to do. And that's been outlined, I think, a couple of times here, that unless something illegal or something of that nature happened, that the board would be free to conduct its business. Having said that, the thought occurred to me that all the evaluation this afternoon of CCMC is superfluous. The question really before you is, we can, we can't, or we can for just cause. Now, you knew what today's topic was going to be. I hope you're prepared. My question to you is, what's your position on the legal question? I reserve the rest of my time. Are you prepared to answer that question in terms of what's your legal position
I think we
on
are.
the question before you?
I think we are.
Actually, we can, but we can't vote on it because this is a workshop, of course. We can exercise our own individual comments, but we can't vote on this issue here because this is a workshop. It's not a regular scheduled meeting, of course.
Is that planned already, when you would take a vote on this issue?
It would be the next board meeting, or a subsequent board meeting.
Which is when?
The next board meeting is the 26th. It's not on the agenda yet. Actually, we had talked about meeting again with the Artisan Park Committee in executive session prior to anything else.
In executive session?
Yeah.
Well, you might want to consider, given the importance, maybe you call special meetings before, having that on the issue, single issue, and if you can, do it rather than let this issue lie for a long period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that exhausts the list. Is there any person that didn't sign up that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, then.
Jack, I have something from Barbara and Jeff Church. I mean, can I read it? Or?
We're not here. Okay. Okay, we're an hour and 5 minutes away from closing. All right, so that concludes the
Jack, I have a
comment.
And so I received a couple of messages from folks stating that we needed to make sure that we knew what was going on in the Artisan Park service area, that we didn't know what was going on there, you don't know how it operates, you know, a lot of those things. Anyone know who I am or where I live? Sure. I happen to live in the Artisan Park service area. Been there since 2010. So please, if you're going to accuse us of not doing our homework, do a little bit yourself first before you come back and say that none of us live there or none of us know what's going on. So I have a vested interest in this. So please, please, there's always 3 sides to a story. So remember that.
All right, so let's get into the discussion then. Remember the cornerstones of our celebration. One of the cornerstones is community, and that's working together. And the Artisan Park supplements is meant to help work together with us. So what I'd like to look at right now is section 8.4, the management documents, the section right there.
Call the meeting to order.
I'm sorry, let's call the meeting to order. Okay. Okay. All right. So first thing is discuss the Artisan
Rachel
Park
needs a time, so.
Service Area Committee request for selection of a new management agent for the Artisans Park service area. Okay. You satisfied? All right. So what I'd like to do is discuss section 8.4. Specifically, let's start by sentence. Okay, the Celebration Board may employ for the Artisan Park service area a professional management agent or agents at such compensation as the Celebration Board may establish to perform such duties and services as the Celebration Board shall authorize. Okay, I think we've done that. Okay. The second one is the selection of a management agent for the Artisan Park service area shall be subject to the prior approval of the Artisan Park Committee. And that's all been done with your approval. I'm going to drop down in the third sentence. The association may not terminate or refuse to renew any management contract for the Artisan Park service area without the consent of the Artisan Park Committee. Anybody want to comment on that one? Okay. What I'm looking at is that you stated that you would not approve the renewal. You can't do it. Okay? You don't have that capacity under 8.4. All right, now let's talk about 8.5.
Jack,
yeah.
if I may comment on that last sentence. The association, CROA, may not terminate or refuse to renew any management contract for the Artisan Park service area without the consent of the Artisan Park Committee.
Yeah.
If there was an organization in there managing it, fast forward 5 years, 10 years, if there's an organization in there that was not doing a good job, in CROA's opinion, but APC said it was doing a good job, CROA could not override that.
Right.
If that committee was, if that management company was not managing the restaurant well, but the Artisan Park Committee thought it was, if they were not attending to physical safety issues, if they were not attending to health, sanitation, we could not override that committee. So we have to be careful what we would approve.
Right.
Just wanted to clarify that. That's not where we are today. That's about cancellation.
Right.
That's not about hiring. That's about getting rid of an existing firm.
Well, what I'm going back to
is
their statement that they could refuse to renew our CCMC, and that's not in
That's not what that says.
It's not in the document at all.
Right, so I'm not disagreeing. I'm just clarifying. I think that's an important issue.
Okay.
As if we fast forward where any decision might take us.
Exactly.
Which would be our fiduciary responsibility.
Right.
Not disagreeing with you.
Okay. Any other comments on section 8.4? Let's go to 8.5. Okay. The Artisan Park Committee and the association shall cooperate with each other in all matters involving Artisan Park, and that's why we're here. Okay. We're not trying to be punitive in any way. We're trying to seek the best thing out for our residents. It's been said that the only way we can possibly turn this down, and we said, and you guys have said we don't have a right to, is for one, a violation of community standard, or two, be a material deviation from the general plan of development for the Celebration residential properties as determined by in the Celebration Board's reasonable discretion. Herein lies the rub. Okay, back in our executive session, we looked at all the property there and we said, well, we're responsible for it, we're liable for it. So we said, well, we don't have a problem as far as granting restaurant management to the Artisan Park Committee.
Jack, this is our first executive session.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We sought out legal opinions, and you may have read Tom Slayton's legal opinion. He broke it out in points. But let me read the last paragraph, the last two paragraphs. As to what constitutes a material deviation, in the context of land use, it is a material as opposed to de minimis or a nominal variance from the existing plan or scheme. When deciding whether to approve a material deviation, a typical land use review includes the following questions. 1, will it be materially detrimental to the property or land use? 2, are there exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that do not apply to other properties? 3, does strict application deprive the property of the privileges enjoyed by other properties? And 4, is the granting of the deviation consistent with the general plan and scheme of the community? All right, and this is Tom's opinion. Applied to the Artisan Park Service Area Committee request.
Jack, Debbie, mute yourself. You got too much backfeed to us. Go ahead, sorry.
Applied to the Artisan Park Service Area Committee request to engage a new CAM to manage the common areas as well as the food and beverages services. The board may, per the supplement, apply its reasonable discretion in answering the 4 questions above. With respect to just food and beverage, Artisan Park has an exceptional circumstance in that no other service area provides food and beverage services, and allowing the committee to manage just the food. Let me start that. With respect to just food and beverage, Artisan Park has an exceptional circumstance in that no other service area provides food and beverage services, and allowing the committee to manage just the food and beverage service through a different food and beverage manager will not affect the property, quote unquote. On the other hand, expanding the separate management to common area maintenance will, at the very least, affect the property and land use, for which the board can reasonably determine that there are no exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions that do not apply to other properties. And denying the request to engage separate management to manage the common area facilities does not deprive Artisan Park from the privileges enjoyed by the other properties. Furthermore, engaging separate CAM management to manage parts of CROA, as opposed to any sub-associations such as Georgetown or Sienna Celebration, is inconsistent with the general plan and scheme of CROA, which has always had one CAM company to manage CROA common areas. Okay, anybody want to comment?
Well, maybe you could tell us what is your point? I'm not a lawyer. I don't really.
The point is that I
understand.
Put mic over on the call.
The point is that what Tom is saying is that the club operations, restaurant, bar operations, that that he is. There's no question, but that Artisan Park would have the right to hire a separate management company for that. Yeah, the only thing in question may be the maintenance of the physical property. Is that right? That's my understanding of it.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could read the legal stuff. I tend to, that's why we hired Tom, and we've had Tom look at this 2 or 3 times. And I think Tom has been pretty consistent that, I don't know he's been consistent. Let me read what he first said when it first came up about this issue. He says, I have been asked whether the committee this Artisan Park committee may hire a company other than CCMC to manage the clubhouse, cafe, and, this is important, and related facilities. Now that to me means maintenance and whatever. And then event planning. What he says is, and this is quote, based on the foregoing Artisan Park supplement provisions, it is my opinion that the APSAC may change professional management. So he says very clearly, and this is related to including maintenance.
What's the date of that letter?
I will stipulate, let me say, I will stipulate that he has changed, I think, his opinion on facilities, but I think we all in agreement that Tom Slayton has given us an opinion. We all agree that the clubhouse, cafe, all that the Artisan Park Committee has the full right to hire somebody else to manage that.
The restaurant
Are we all in
operation,
agreement
yes.
on that? I mean, it seems very clear to me that that's we've consistently at least been told that.
The restaurant operation, yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So the question is the only real question is how to deal with the maintenance of the facility maintenance issue, right?
Right.
And whether or not they have the right to take that over, or whether or not we have the right to keep that. So that's what we're talking about.
That's basically it. And that's what Tom said in his letter dated June 6th. He pointed out on the bullet points of discussion, he said CROA owns and is obligated to maintain, repair, and replace and ensure the Artisan Park service area facilities, including the Artisan Park building, pool, and field, and tracks 28 and 32, Celebration Area 5, Plat Book 15, so on. But his comment to this was the CROA board will not relinquish these responsibilities to another management company. However, the board is willing to engage another management company to handle food and beverage services. And that's what his bullet point.
Well, I think he's saying the board doesn't want to do that. I don't know that he's saying that the board has the obligation to do that. The board can
well, I think
decide to give that up or not.
He said in his letter yesterday that is a material deviation from the general plan of development to bring in another management company.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, that's our attorney's opinion on that. Can I throw out a suggestion here? And is that because if we're talking about this one issue, and to me it's I don't even know how it would work in terms of who would do what or how that would work. It seems to me that really 80 or 90% of the job over there is the restaurant and clubhouse. So we're really only talking about a small portion, and I would hate for this to get to some big legal issue or we're talking about something that's relatively small. And I guess what I would throw out is that could we ask Evergreen, and I assume Craig would be the representative there, and Steve for CCMC to get together and work out exactly how that would work, and could they make that situation work? Who would be responsible for what? How would it work? It seems to me as I start to think about it, it seems like a very complicated type of thing that, as a board, I don't know. It would take forever trying to figure out how to make this work, but at least if they could sit down and see if they could figure out a way to make that work. I mean, at the end of the day, what we at CROA, our main concern is that, and I've heard this and I think it's legitimate, is that we don't want this to be a downtown type situation, and the facilities get in bad shape, and everybody looks at CROA and said, "How did you let that happen?" So I understand that. But I guess I would ask Steve. Steve would go in and say, what we would ask Steve is that we want to make sure that we are not putting ourselves, we want to be protected. We want CROA to be protected, to make sure that things are in place to ensure that the facilities are well maintained. And that's our concern. And then, from the Artisan Park side, we want it to be something that can work and it's fair. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it seems to me that really is our main concern. We want to make sure that this doesn't the facilities are maintained and that and whatever. But again, it just seems to me that maybe Steve and Craig could get together and see if they can work out a solution to that.
Okay. Comments?
So I have a dumb question. Like I normally have. What happens today when and I'm looking at you guys now, sorry. What happens today when we have a violation of the ARC guidelines and there's a covenants violation on the clubhouse property?
Well, I think for ARC, it would be if the clubhouse wanted to make any changes, that would go through the same process as any single-family home. They would submit an ARC application and go through that process.
And then covenants violation, how does that work today?
Well, it would be us looking at it, and if there's something that needs to be done, we would get it to the club manager and ask in a letter to address those issues.
Okay. And today, if the issues aren't addressed by the club manager or the committee, what happens?
But I think it goes back to the spirit of collaboration. We need to work with them to ensure that it got done. I don't think we've gotten to the point where there's been a refusal to complete work that needs to be done from an aesthetic standpoint.
There has, but that's okay. So, I know some people are shaking their heads out there, but we do have planters that have been empty for 2 years, just to let everyone know. So, to me, if anything, if we had a separate management company out there, because it's kind of hard to hold the CCMC's feet to the fire when it's the same ones that are helping us out. It's harder to point the finger, but if I know that someone else is responsible for it and they're not doing it, then it's real easy for us to turn around and, I mean, we all like to blame people around here, so we can then very easily turn around and say, you guys need to fix this. So I guess I'm just trying to understand how the relationship would work if there was a different managing agent down there, but if we went and you treated it as like my house, you know, I would get a letter and we go through the whole covenants process and yada, yada, yada. But today it's almost like we'd find a violation against, you know, ourselves. And that would, I guess, be the same thing that it would be in the future because it's our property either way, right?
Right, and how much do you want to push? I mean, I know that we use the example of the flower pots. I mean, those have been on agendas from the Arts and Park Service Area Committee, and
sure,
they've looked at multiple different options. And I think from the last conversation, it was, do they want to look at a change to that? And I think there's going to be options when homeowners come in and ask for requests to look at different changes in the service area, or the ARC will work with them to try and identify a solution. Sometimes it does take long. 2 years may be a little bit long, but they do work with homeowners and the Arts and Park Service.
No, sure,
area.
right. You're looking at me funny.
No, I'm
deep in thought.
No, I'm just
waiting
to see who's speaking next. Someone else.
Well, Deb had a statement. You prepared to read your statement?
Debbie, I'm going to read your statement. I don't even know if she's still there. So Debbie wrote a statement. So this is Debbie. It would be irresponsible for me to approve another management company to manage our assets. I would, however, like to see a written plan as soon as 10 to 14 days that outlines an inspection schedule, a plan for a playground or a facility near the amphitheater so we have something to connect Artisan with the other villages. Also, if there are underlying issues that mediation may assist with, discuss with APSC. I'm all right with the food and beverage having a different overseer like Aramac, Host International, or Susan Bona, or others. My concern with Evergreen is their main expertise is community management, not food and beverage. I feel it's my fiduciary responsibility to hear what the APSC recommends, but to represent all of the homeowners in Artisan and Celebration as a whole. I feel strongly that another management company would cause division in our community, possible dues increases for Artisan homeowners, and deviates from the Celebration Company's original plan from our community. She also added, this decision was guided by our legal team, and I would like to point out that no representative of APSC has come before the CROA board during the last 3 years with any issues or concerns. I can't speak before that as I was not on the board.
Okay.
So that's from Debbie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Kate Leonard or Tom? Tim?
Hey, Leonard, are you going to address the material deviation?
I think Jack talked about it a little bit, material deviation, but go ahead.
No, I was just asking if you were going to...
I'm just sort of taking some notes right now as to what I'm going to say. I never know what I'm saying until we get to the end.
Okay. I'll short and sweet. What I'm hearing is the purpose behind wanting to make a change is a poor maintenance of the facilities. In the past, anyway, poor running of the restaurant, and I believe now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Bill McFadden has turned that restaurant around and has made it a well-run machine, and has a lot, at least the emails that I've been getting, a lot of people satisfied with the way that operation is being run. As you all know, I've been in the property management business for about 10 years. I believe strongly that if you have someone who's not performing maintenance-wise, that's a supervisory issue. That's not a change in management necessarily, not a change in a vendor necessarily, unless after several attempts to properly supervise the maintenance of a facility that it's not being done. So it's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And if Davey, for example, is not performing around that clubhouse, then we either tell Davey they have to straighten up and fly right, or they're going to get fired. And if they get fired, then we replace them with another landscaper company and do it that way. I understand that, like you said, there's been flowers missing for 2 years. That's unacceptable. And so we should be supervising towards that. My third concern is the liability issue. And the liability issue is very big in my mind. We cannot give that liability away to another management company or to another entity. It's not possible. It's not legally possible. We are liable for all things that happen all over the CROA properties, including Artisan Park properties in the service area. And I'm not ready as a board member to allow somebody to come in and put us in possible jeopardy because we have no control over the situation anymore. And that's where I stand.
So you're saying we're stuck with that, basically?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you my facts. Okay. Where we go from, where we
you polled the members.
Where we go.
Excuse me.
Resident time.
Resident time's over.
Conflict of interest.
Jack, this is supposed to be, you told me, and I asked you.
Eileen, please sit down.
Let me say what I've got to say.
Please sit down, Eileen.
Actually, Eileen, you're out of order.
I closed resident comments.
But I think this whole thing is out of order, because you have never had the courtesy to have an open meeting with the Artisan Park community where we can speak freely, that the head of our committee got 3 minutes to speak, and you get an hour and a half to just talk about whatever you want. That is not fair, that is not equal, that is not responsible, and that is not cooperation. Come down to Artisan Park, let us speak, let us say what we need to say, and then talk about what you should do.
We did.
I mean,
I'll tell you what.
This is not a free-for-all.
Hang on.
We're done. That's the rules of this meeting.
So I'll address Eileen's out of order turn. One of the things that we had here is that, guess what? We did go down and have a meet and greet at the Artisan Park Clubhouse. We were there.
It was a meet and greet.
It was a meet and greet.
At a very difficult time when many of us could not come, and it did not have its subject matter. Yesterday morning, we had 30 people.
Eileen, you're at...
So let me finish, because it's very short. I stayed at that meeting because I was somewhat cornered by 3 people there. And I had a conversation with them. Made ourselves very available. To the point, we asked for an in-person meeting with a lot of these things. I also get turned on the other hand and say, why are you having an in-person meeting? I'm not there, I'm a seasonal resident. Okay, so we do an in-person meeting, we're available via email, we're available via online forums that we make available where you, Eileen, called us out and lots of things. We have open communication, so I think that that's there. I think the challenge that we're having is that, quite frankly, these documents are crappy, the way that they're written. There's a lot of mud in here. And that's no fault of anyone in this room. None of us were here when these documents were written. The challenge that we have is that we don't know we've asked for legal opinions multiple times on something, which is kind of silly. Normally you ask for a legal opinion and it's done. You have your legal opinion. The problem is that there's different layers of the onion that we keep peeling back here and we keep asking the questions on. And that's the challenge that we're sitting with today. Personally, I have no issue with them changing management, with them switching whatever they want, as long as we can legally cover our butt. We need to make sure that that's available, because if we get into the situation that we have someone else managing the area, and that was my question when we got to covenants and you know, all that fun stuff, what happens when, you know, how can we follow up with that? How can we, you know, what is the recourse? Is there anything? And I don't think that we necessarily know. And that's what I struggle with. It's very easy for us to figure out what happens from, you know, the cafe operations thing is done. That's easy. If you know, there's no legal problem with that. The challenge that we have is the physical building part, with being able to how the landscaping is done, the physical building, the assets that are sitting there. And that's still where I don't think that we have a clear answer on what happens.
I don't think we have a clear answer on the club operation.
No, I think the club.
Somebody gets in there and gets deathly ill and dies from food poisoning. Guess who's liable?
No, I think the club the restaurant operation we can easily transfer over. That's not a problem. Okay, it's just like a special program. You can allow somebody else to take over that.
Well, I mean, the way that I look at the restaurant is I look at it as any other vendor that we have operating in the community. I mean, because we require vendors to have insurance and all that jazz anyway, right?
Correct.
You know, so it would be similar to something like that. I mean, I know that this is on a much larger scale because they're permanently there, operating assets. But, you know, we have the same sort of thing where we're letting folks use, you know, a pool, you know, or, you know, a field or something like that. And it's very easy for someone to drown in something like that.
That's a liability we control. That's not a liability that somebody else controls. That's the issue.
Well, I'm going by what Tom Slayton said, and he said there's not a problem transferring that over. Okay.
Well, he never said that you would ever transfer your liability completely. You're always going to be some sort of liability there. I think the comment and opinion from him was that you could, based because Artisan Park service area is unique from the other service areas in one specific area, and that's food and beverage, a club restaurant. And they have a appointed committee, an elected committee, as part of that reasoning for that uniqueness of that service area. So in Tom's opinion, it would not be, and based on your conversations that you had with them during the first executive session, it would not be a material deviation to allow another company to manage food and beverage operations.
Okay. I'm done.
Yeah, if I can, I want to get back to again letting Steve and Craig at Evergreen trying to work through these other situations. I'm with Eric. It's like I'm trying to go through my mind how all this stuff is going to work, and I start getting a headache. But you know, I'm just but Steve and Craig, they do this stuff every day, and they will know what all the pitfalls are. And you know, in my mind, it would be best if we still, you know, that CROA or CCMC is still is responsible for the operations consistent with every place else. If we can make that work, and but I think the only two people that can really work through all that are probably Craig and Steve. I don't think our boards can do that. I know I can't, but I think that's our whatever.
David?
Yeah, Paul, and a lot of this discussion talks about Evergreen, and I go back to what one of the speakers said about that we're not in a rush, but that doesn't mean delay forever. Let's have a thorough analysis, and I reflect on what Debbie said about these other companies. I would be interested in a thorough look at who potential vendors are and to ensure, using one of the speaker's comments, there's no conflict of interest, that none of these vendors, Evergreen included, Aramark, Host International and so forth, that none of them have a close relationship with anyone on this board, the Artisan Park Board, or anyone in leadership in Celebration. I want to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, no friendships, because I think that that becomes a conflict, and that needs to be public. So we keep talking about Craig, we talk about Evergreen. I'm not sure that that's the right question. I think the broader question is, if there's going to be some separation, food and beverage included, who's in charge of what, and what would be that division of responsibility from whomever the vendor is. So there's two issues: stepping back a moment, looking at potential vendors, and then making sure we don't have a conflict of interest with any of the owners or the leaders of those other companies, whomever they are.
Any conflicts? I don't know of any conflicts of interest with Evergreen. Are you saying that you think?
I think we need to look at that.
Interest with Evergreen?
I think we need to look at that.
So I think that the challenge that we really have, to be honest, is we're having two different conversations right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The conversation that's been put forward to us from the service area committee is that they're not entertaining the food and beverage option. The service area committee wants to manage the entirety of the Artisan Park service area and switch the managing agent for that entire Artisan Park service area.
Go ahead, keep talking. I've already got those written down. Go ahead.
Right.
So I think that the challenge is that we're up here talking about managing the food and beverage point, but that's not what the question that's really on the table that's being posed. You know, the committee came to us and said, we want to switch our managing agent. You know, for not, and it's not us to now piecemeal that together to figure out what's what. We need to figure out, okay, are we okay with that? You know, yes or no? And then, depending on the outcome of that, do we need to have an additional conversation or an additional negotiation or additional follow-up? And because it might very well be that we're up here talking about, you know, we're okay with them managing food and beverage, and the service area committee comes back and says, no, I think we need to manage the whole thing, and then we turn around and get sued. So, you know, I think that we just need to realize that we're kind of already beyond this conversation. We've been asked to do something, and now we need to figure out if we can do it or not.
You mean separating the food and beverage from the other?
Adding just a little bit into what Eric just said, between option number one, restaurant vendor, option number two, a management company option. And the way I understand it, under the management company option, they want to keep the same personnel they have down there already. In other words, they don't have a problem with the personnel they have down there right now. Their problem is with CROA and CCMC, which is above them no matter what happens. And that doesn't go away, ever. It's still that corporation is Celebration Residential Owners Association, Inc. And the committee is a subcommittee given under the Artisan Park Service Area Agreement certain rights and responsibilities. And if you go straight into the reading of those rights under 8.4, and I know Jack covered this once, is the first sentence basically says CROA may employ professional management agent or agents. And it goes on further language, but basically CROA has employed CCMC. The second sentence in that 8.4 says the selection of a management agent for APSA shall be subject to the prior approval of the APC. Well, the management agent right now, because the sentence above that says professional management agent or agents. The management agent down there is Bill McFadden, who has already been approved by them.
That is not true. That is incorrect reading of documents.
Okay, again, Rand, you can express this later, you can tell me later, you can write us emails on it. I'm going through the exact reading of it. So, and then the third part of that is CROA may not refuse to renew, and it's ambivalent in the, it's ambiguous in the third sentence, whether it's either saying CCMC or I'm going to use Bill McFadden versus what his title is down there. CROA may not refuse to renew either CCMC's or Bill McFadden's contract without APC consent. So if we wanted to get rid of Bill McFadden and just say he's gone down there, APC needs to consent to that. The same is if we decided not to use CCMC down there and they begged us to, they would have to consent to that. I'm not taking questions now right now. I'm still in the middle of my speech. And as I look at these items here, basically a separate management company versus separate restaurant company puts in inherent extra costs into the whole thing. And this isn't even going to the paragraph 5.2 costs that are the costs that CROA is allowed to collect from APC. And those inherent extra costs come from extra auditing expenses, the expense of having to have a set of books taken by one set of companies, then switched over because everything down there has to come onto our final returns. Because everything that's done down there enters CROA's final returns for taxes, et cetera, and our audit as required under Section 720 of Florida statutes. I would be open to, and this probably goes back to more of what, or at least a portion of what Debbie said, is, and she was on the board for 3+ years, never heard a complaint from APC for at least the 3 years she was there. I've heard from former people on the board that there wasn't any real complaints from APC over the last 7 or 8 years, that we have things going on wrong down here. I've went through many reviews at Artisan Park, and I showed you the structure. I don't draw very well. I draw little circles, and I said, these are your ways to go out and around that. And again, I've got some side issues that aren't, I'm going to hit flower pots just for a second, just because they were brought up several times here today. I have no idea why the flower pots down there still look the way they do, whether APC never put it in their budget and would not budget for that, and they didn't get done that way, or they didn't have the money in their budget to do it, or whether they just chose not to correct it, and there wasn't a enforcement from the CROA board, because ultimately it's the CROA's board's right and duty to enforce those types of things. Down to the bottom here. Basically, I think the restaurant vendor is a definite option. I see not a whole lot to gain with that if you're especially enthralled with the current restaurant management you have right now. And that seems to be the case, that you are very much a Bill McFadden fan. And if not, these are the people to start speaking to. If you're not and you want them replaced, these are the guys you come to. And if you don't get satisfaction there, you come to us and we go through the whole thing, as I've said before. And I've got my comments done, I think.
Okay. So,
Please explain one major correction where absolutely 100% wrong.
No.
I don't know if I've ever been wrong, but go ahead.
I would.
I will, if you have a quick sentence or two, I'll listen. Go ahead.
I will, well, somebody.
I'm sorry. Wait. Will someone second her speaking for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, now you can speak.
Somebody would like to call Vanessa
Eileen,
Winters.
can you go on the,
Okay.
just because we'll.
Somebody, unfortunately, Leonard, and I love you dearly, you made many incorrect statements, but I'm going to let those go. But I have to have one that absolutely has to be corrected. A year ago, for many, many years, the former manager was running an illegal daycare center in the back room.
Stop there. Okay, that was approved by our service committee.
That was not approved by our service. It was never approved by our service committee. That was a claim made by...
Steve, what's the story on that?
The manager was not running that daycare. There was a group of residents that were renting the facility. It was called to question. We went to risk management, we went to legal, we got a response, and it was corrected at that
And I worked on it for 4 months with Vanessa Winters before you shut it down, and you only shut it down when I showed up with the documents showing that it was a drop-off center, that this was a violation of Florida state laws. The former manager always said, oh, it was approved by a committee. It was approved by the committee as a mommy and me. He knew what was going on. If Bill Pelea is still in the room, he can testify that at meetings we would say to this manager, isn't it a daycare center? And he would say, no, it's a mommy and me. I finally, after 4 months and 2 phone calls to Vanessa, which is why I'm bringing it up, because it was brought to the board. If not bringing it up to the president of the board is not bringing it to the board, I don't know what is. And the former manager would say, no, it's a mommy and me. It's not a daycare center. The penalty for running an illegal and unlicensed daycare center is a year in jail. It's a felony. And I brought in the documents. We all remember the day. Finally, I had enough. I was 4 months that I'd been working on this thing. I brought in the documents. It showed the woman was advertising on Facebook that we were running a daycare center. You want to talk about liability? Do you know what the liability of that was?
Okay.
But I sat at meetings where the committee was told, and members of the committee and all of us were told, it's not a mommy and me. But it was a drop-off daycare center. And one other issue that I have to mention is that, because you talked about drinking, one, we had a manager from CCMC who went home in the middle of our Christmas party last year, at which time one of the wait staff had a major medical problem. She was immediately fired the next day. She was fired that night. And we understand that this has been settled, and it was settled by CCMC, and she was considered to be totally exonerated, that she did nothing wrong. So CCMC has brought us lots and lots of liability problems.
All right, Steve, would you comment on that, please?
Well, we didn't necessarily shut anything down when it comes to a daycare. There was discussion of what needed to be done. The club manager approached the organizer and said, these are the stipulations if you're going to continue to utilize this facility. I think it's phased itself out to this point. It's not something that's being run. When it comes to employee personnel issues, I'm not going to openly discuss those.
Okay. All right, where are we?
I have nothing else to say.
Can I just say quickly is that to try to get us back on target here is that I think we all agreed is that whether or not we like the decision of Artisan Park Committee on who they want to run the cafe or whatever, I think we've all decided that it is their decision to make who runs the cafe restaurant operation. So, I'd like to get us back focused on the remaining issue, which is the oversight of the maintenance of the property. Because that really is, everything we've received from our attorney says that is the one area that I think there's some question, and that he does feel that we do have the authority, we do have the legal ability to have a say in that. So I think we need to figure out how, what is our position on that with Artisan Park.
Well,
that seems to be the decision we have to make.
I'm going to refer you back to Tom Slayton's email to us and his statement that it would be a material deviation for us to bring another management company in to manage our properties. It's inconsistent with the general plan and scheme of CROA, which has always had one CAM company to manage the properties. I have no problems as far as doing the restaurant operation.
And I'm fine with that. I guess my, my position on then would be then, okay, that's fine. I'm willing to go along with that, with just a stipulation that then Steve and if whatever company that Artisan Park wants to run the restaurant operations, that they get together and try and work out how that will work, if that can work. I mean, if it can't work, then it would become obviously a legal issue between the two of us, but I would hope to avoid a legal issue and see if we can make that work.
All right, so what's the sentiment of the board?
Well, just real quickly, though, I have another dumb question.
Keep in mind, this is a workshop.
Yeah, I have another...
It's not a vote.
Yeah, I have another dumb question.
We're going to decide whether to put someone on the
Who's the
ballot.
contract with?
First, let me answer the first question. You're not voting on anything today because there's no action that you're taking. I think you can gather consensus of the board on how you want to move forward with this. But the second question, who the contract would be with, I believe that it would be a food service provider contract with the CROA board. I believe you ultimately would be signing into that contract with them.
Right, because all the pieces that come down there, we have to end up ratifying anyway. That's what we do.
Exactly.
So I have a dumb idea, like I have a lot of them. If the agreement is actually with us on paper, then why can't we then, the service area committee has voted that they want to pursue a management company for the whole shooting match, and this is what they want to do. We can say, fine, that's what we want to do, but we then need to talk to them about the actual contract, because if the agreement is actually listing CROA as who they're making the agreement with, yes, it's for the management of the service area, then we could put in the contract certain stipulations that would require compliance with XYZ community standard or whatever, subject to inspection, whatever we want to do, and then subject to termination, if we don't find that fit. Because then it eliminates, I hate to say it, it eliminates the whole legal question of what's going on with the actual, oversight and all that fun stuff, because then we can turn around and say, you guys aren't managing this appropriately, it's grounds to terminate the contract.
I think it's a legal question that cannot be answered here today.
No, I don't think we can answer it today, but this is just, kind of what I'm trying to...
I think you just circumvented what is stated.
We're talking about...
I did circumvent a statement. I'm weird like that.
And that's
but,
the material deviation.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily material deviation. I'll give an example. Who cleans the pool down there right now?
I like bringing pools.
Someone, give me a different example. Help me out here. I know it's not in your best interest.
I think that their janitorial service is unique.
Janitorial, perfect. Jimkey is different than everywhere else that we have in the community. Who's Jimkey's agreement with?
The Artisan Park
Janie
Service
King,
area.
sorry, whatever they are, yeah.
Yeah, they pay them out of their operating budget to come and clean the facility.
So I think he's asking who signs it.
Who signs the paper?
Parties to the contract.
We
well,
did.
I'd
have to go back and...
Yeah, I'll have to look at it, but yeah, I'm not sure.
So-
I would say yes, they probably did.
Right. So I think that, so that's a different question. But anyway, but I think you see what I'm trying to get at. If we have a problem, at the end of the day, if the Artisan Park Service Area feels that this is what they want to do and this is what their committee has voted on and they want to enter into an agreement with a different management company, then fine, but it's still on us. We still have a seat at the table to figure out what that contract actually says and what's in there.
Well, Eric, that is what Tom Slayton has said in his opinion. He has a whole list of 6 items specifically that, the Artisan Park Committee area has to agree to this or resolve this, or in order for this thing to go forward. So you're right. I mean, that's exactly how, if you look at Tom Slayton's opinion, that's exactly what he's saying. We have rights to ask for all sorts of stuff.
Well, and I hate to say it, Jack, but if that's the case with this blue section, then we're already in violation.
How's that?
Someone else is already cleaning the property that we own.
They're not a management company.
Well, we don't know. There has never been a dispute of that company being a general service.
That's a service versus a management agent or agents for CROA. They're not an agent for CROA. They're a vendor for CROA. CCMC acts as our agent in many ways, such as if we get notice of service from another lawyer, it comes to these guys. Okay, it doesn't go to our janitorial service.
No, but
you're conflating the management agent or agents with a vendor, which is a different. A vendor doesn't act as an agent for someone.
Well, and to complicate that even further, that one paragraph says management contract also. It actually specifically calls out a contract, and before it calls out agent or agent. So there's 3 different ways of describing the management.
But the only other thing I have that I didn't bring up a while ago was in a conversation I had with Lou Byron. To refresh your guys' memory, he's our insurance representative with Siles. Is that the name of it? Siles insurance agent.
I remember him.
And I had a conversation with him on additional coverages, et cetera, and food and beverage or anything we do down there. He talked about us needing to get with our attorney, and I have a note here, either in one of these or in one of my other 2 notebooks at home. I have a Lou Byron note there. I take a lot of contemporaneous notes, as you guys see, and the note says basically talks about indemnification and subrogation for the liquor and food license down there, for no matter what we do or where we go with it, because it's an asset right now that is actually a CROA asset. It's used down there, but it is a CROA asset. And whatever we do with whether it's restaurant vendor, et cetera, we also have to get Lou Byron involved in the insurance side of that. And that's basically, there wasn't a lot of other things, because we had a detailed discussion that day about different coverages we do have and such. But that was one that he goes, there's not an insurable interest we have in that, or we can't protect you that way. So you're going to have some other kind of protection from somewhere else for those issues. And that would just be a Lou Byron. I'm just throwing that out here so you guys hear it, if wherever we start going forward, that it's out there and we don't let it drop by the wayside. I'm sorry, go ahead. David?
We have another topic on the agenda.
Well, is there any consensus on board action?
What about conflict of interest of the board members? Have you told them?
All right, who's got a conflict of interest? You trying to point to Tim?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
And what's a conflict?
What's your conflict?
He was an employee of Evergreen,
No, I wasn't.
and he dislikes them.
I was not an employee of Evergreen. You got wrong information again. I was not ever an employee of Evergreen.
You worked with Craig.
Ever. I worked with Craig, yes I did.
And you
For
did not
about
have a-
3 months. So, what's the deal?
I understand you did not have a pleasant party with the ways when you was getting
We were
started.
fine. I was good.
So what are you trying to intimate?
Yeah. I don't know where you're going with that.
Where I'm going with that.
All right, so is there a consensus as to the next board meeting about any board action on this?
We have an executive session that's currently scheduled for July 25th, I believe.
That's when we make a decision on when we're going to bring it to the board.
Okay. And I got to tell you, I will not be here for that session. I'm gone that whole week.
25th.
So if we can reschedule for either earlier or later?
I'm good to reschedule.
Okay.
Guys, I would like to throw out one more time. We have one issue out there, which is the how to structure this. Who is responsible for the maintenance of the facilities and the oversight of the facilities? And again, we got to. Again, I would throw out. I think that Steve. I fully trust Steve to do what is in the best interest of Artisan Park and CROA. He knows what our concern is. Our concern is to ensure, absolutely ensure, that the facilities there are maintained up to celebration standard, and that he would protect our interests in whatever structure there is in place, and that he work with whoever Artisan Park is recommending to come up with a solution for us on this thing. To me, I think that's the nut that's left. I think that's a way to get around this nut. Hopefully that satisfies both us, CROA, and Artisan Park. And I think we can get beyond this thing. I think it's small. I don't see any reason why we can't move beyond this thing. So I think we're wasting, I hate to sit there and waste a ton more time on this thing. It's like, it's time to crap or get off the, off the jug. But, it's really, this is what we're left with, and I think they're the best entities to solve that. We know what each party is interested in, and I think they can come up with a solution for that.
All right. David wants to chime in on this.
So maybe as part of what Paul is asking is what are the specific areas of responsibility that we're talking about, and the big question is what gets divided. That's where that material deviation was. And then if there were to be another vendor there managing the property, according to 8.4, CROA cannot terminate that even if they are in violation of the contract. So we have to be careful if we're going to go that route. That's how I read this. We may not terminate management contract for the service area without the consent of the committee.
That's true too.
I've got someone in the audience that wants to have a question. I would like to have them ask that question. Do we have a second?
Sure. Is the executive session, do you intend to have us there or not? It wasn't clear. You did not intend to, or do?
It was going to be a joint session.
Okay, good. I have a suggestion, and it's in keeping. The idea of Steve and Craig getting together, I think, is an excellent one. And I think in a similar vein, if we are, and to go to David's point, which is exactly right, what's the division, where does it end? And we never, ever were taking the position that you guys are surrendering your supervisory right and control. And if we have to address that in the contract by surrendering something, we can do that. I think it would be useful in our executive session to have the attorney here, because where we are going is butting up against the original opinion and what you just read, and we can practically together say, how far can we go and still, to use your elegant term, protect your butt in the future? Because we don't have any intent or desire for you guys to take any liability in this, and we never did, and we didn't expect you to. So in keeping with David's point, in keeping with the point of Steve and Craig getting together, I think in the joint session, if we have the lawyer, we can go as far as we can go with him saying yes, but, or no, as opposed to saying, let's get here, and one of us saying, I think we can push it, and you saying, or, no, we can't, and one of us is right, one of us is wrong, and if the lawyer's there, he can say, you can go here, but you can't go here. I think that'd be useful.
Just to dovetail on that, I go back to Eric's point, I think about a half hour ago. We all inherited messy documents.
Exactly.
It's like, oh my gosh, who wrote these things? But the big question, what was that? Did I do something? but the big question. But the big question is, how do we move forward, and how can we move forward together in the spirit of cooperation? To me, that's what it's all about.
All right, can we pull out our calendars?
Yes.
And see what day we can do an executive session?
We can't do it that week, is your point.
Well, I'm looking at the week of the 17th through the 21st.
That's next week.
Yeah.
And we have two.
Is that too early for you guys?
Sorry, when?
I'm out from Tuesday on.
From Tuesday on?
I don't lead a very exciting life, so I'm good pretty much all the time.
I hate to say, we got workshops all day on Monday.
And we have recreation committee meeting on Tuesday. Does Wednesday work? Or
I'm out.
before the
He's out.
I'm out the rest of the week.
Eric, when are you going to be around?
Name your time.
Huh?
Name your time.
I'm
adjust my schedule accordingly.
Can we do it at 1:30 on Monday, the 17th?
It's a back-to-back day because you have budget, and then you have...
We had 3 workshops that day. Yeah, I understand that.
Oh, we have 2 already. So
I know, and this will be a 3rd.
No.
Do it on Tuesday during the day.
Well, we
can't get David then. Paul, when are you here?
Let's do it on Monday. No, let's do it on Monday. The summer people are gone.
Or we can do it. We can do it in the evening.
If we can do it all together at the same time,
we can do it in the evening after 6:30. No.
I'll bring the coffee here till later.
You're probably better doing it before you get into the long day.
I'm thinking 1:30. Okay. Anybody object to 1:30? Can you guys do 1:30?
Well, and we have to see that Tom will be available. We'll have to check his availability.
Is this just talking about, this is the executive?
We're going to try and get Tom Slayton in here.
I think what we will end up doing is, as non-lawyers, we would end up we may not reach resolution because we would disagree on where we end up. They'll tell us where we end up.
We hope he will.
Well, we
Okay.
have a better shot, let me put it that way.
Yeah. So anyway, I would like to do a 1:30 on Monday.
Define the meeting invites.
The invites will be the Service Area Committee and us.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Are we asking that Craig and Steve meet before this meeting and try and work some things out first?
No, that can be done at a later date.
No?
That can be done at a later date,
Okay.
I believe.
I think if Tom cannot make it, then we need to have a plan B. And then I think Paul's suggestion that Craig and Steve try to do some things, because I think that could feed into it nicely.
Yeah, I'd like to see them get together first.
Actually, that might be the preferred way to go, and not rush it on.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
How late does that put you guys out? I know you're working hard to fit in next Monday. If you lose Monday, are you history for weeks?
Well, I'm out the rest of the week, and then Jack's gone the whole following week.
So the next one would be...
It'd be the 31st.
The week of the 31st. That's three weeks from now.
And I think it makes more sense for the documents were written in the spirit of cooperation. I think it makes more sense to come to a cooperation and come to a determination of what that looks like first before we start talking about the logistics of how it's going to be implemented.
Okay. So then let's look at the week of the 31st then, July 31st through August 4th. I'm good on Monday through Thursday.
Anytime then.
Oh, we're not looking at Monday now for executive session?
No, I think we're probably concerned that maybe Tom may not be able to make it.
Well, I can check with them and see. Before we say no to it, I'll find out what it's
going
built
to make the second or third. I'm going to have cataract surgery.
All right, guys, can we try for the 17th, and then as a backup, we go into the August, first week in August?
I can do a group email with the Service Area Committee and the CROA board if that doesn't work, and then we can determine.
I do think, and I'm not sure whether you guys agree, I do think Monday should be dependent on having a lawyer, because I think we will have much more. And if we know we're having a session, yes, we'd all like to be done with this yesterday, but if we're going to have a session, let's have a session that works, and I think having the lawyer there gives us a better shot. Sure.
Well, it worked out.
Yeah, you have to have
the lawyer in an executive session.
But I mean, you speaking to these points specifically.
All right.
So I just sent an email to him, so based on his response,
1:30.
yeah, I'll do a group email to everybody and we'll get it arranged.
Do we want to get an early August backup meeting, though?
Well,
31st or 1st?
we'll be able to, we'll have to find out from him that date as well, so we might as well just wait on it.
Yeah, I'll get his.
Okay, we have 3 weeks. All right, so pending that, the 31st then. Okay, now we have one other thing to discuss.
I'm sorry. The date of the meeting now is?
17th, 1:30.
And default is the 31st.
And we need to cancel the 25th.
I'm sorry, what's that? It could be. Okay, we're not going to set that date yet, you know. I'd rather be on Tuesday as well, and he's not going to hear that, so. Everybody's got lives, you know, it's crazy lives. Okay, now, we need to discuss the dates for the on-street parking petition presentation, okay? As many of you know, we have over 1,500 respondents on that on-street parking petition. The County Commission only meets at 1:30 in the afternoon, and next month it's on the 7th, 14th, and 21st. Okay, so we've got to propose this with the CDD as well. What date would you guys like to do?
I'm good with every single one.
Okay.
If it's 1:30 in the afternoon, I'm good with every single one.
Yeah. Leonard?
Anything will work for me.
Okay. All right, I won't hold you to it because you might have to work.
Yep.
Okay, David?
Yeah, 14th and 21st. I'm just not sure about the 7th yet.
7th?
I just don't know. I don't know.
Because I mentioned 14th originally.
Paulie's still on the line?
Paul, you there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a lot, but I can't do the 21st. I can't do the other ones, but I can't do the 21st. But don't do it just because of me.
You can't do which date?
The 21st.
The only date I can do is the 21st.
Oh, okay.
14th.
I would say the 14th is a better date for us to do it, mainly because we've got to get an entry into the Celebration News by Friday. And the Celebration News comes out on August 1st, and that'll give us enough time to get some more residents down there, as well as getting 2 Friday flashes in there.
Okay.
So the 14th then?
14th?
That's fine.
Okay.
And you said it's like 1:30?
1:30 is the time of their meetings, yeah.
Probably leave here about 12:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
So just so that we're clear, what's our planned format for that?
I would just like to have one person speak and present this and just everybody stand up. Okay. Probably put Steve up there to speak. Because he's one of the members of the committee that was on that.
You've been voluntold.
Yeah.
And if we have something longer than 3 minutes, you get 2 or 3 people to sign up so we can.
I don't think it's going to be
Get it all
longer than 3
out there.
minutes. I would say one thing for those people who are here. We just found out yesterday, or actually this morning, that your county commissioner is going to be here at the Bohemian on August 2nd from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. So if you have any issues you'd like to address with her, if you know what she looks like, ever thought you saw her,
If there's a sighting?
it may be the only time you ever see her, so it's a good time to raise issues with her.
Do you have any issues that you would like residents to put forward in the sense of not bodies?
Absolutely, because we have been waiting for the light to go in there at Celebration Boulevard and Water Street for 2 years now, 3 years, and now the latest I hear is going to be in November. Okay?
If you can, I don't know what the distribution, whether it's email or whatever, but I think people, as a resident, I think residents will be willing to show up, and I think you tell me, yes, it's valuable to have board members, but I think it might even be better to have residents make plans or requests.
I can give you any number of issues.
Yeah, exactly, but I'm saying,
Because,
I'd like to know what I'm going to say.
well, the other issue is that the other proposed light is the intersection of, right by the library, okay? Right now, the county says, well, you don't need it, but guess what? We're going to be putting 80 parking spaces down there for the civic corridor. And if you run and say 5 soccer games a day on
Weren't
each
they
of
also
those.
talking about roundabouts there?
No, it's gone now.
That's gone out? Okay.
when you talk about that flux of traffic going in and out there, everybody doing a four-way stop trying to get out of their library is impossible. So we need to get a traffic study done on that. I think the other issue that I would go after is actually traffic safety altogether. We have Jerry in here, but we pay for Jerry. Okay, CDD pays for Jerry.
I thought we were talking about parking.
Well, he asked for other issues.
Yeah,
as far as meeting with Ms. Chowdhury.
Right. Okay.
Wake up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so parking is a huge issue for me. Okay, I mean not parking, but the traffic is a huge issue. I would like to see more presence.
Are you aware of the deputy?
That was more of what I was getting at.
Fire, go ahead, you speak.
Do you know what's going on with the parking in the community? What they want to do?
Oh, okay, let's go on that.
That's what I think the disconnect is.
All right, here's
the difference in living in Artisan Park is you're at the end, and by definition, we don't get hammered.
Actually you do, because
Yeah, you will.
Here's what happens with parking.
So,
Assistant Deputy Fire Chief McAvoy came in here and said, we're not going to allow you to have any more on-street parking in front of your houses.
You mean remove what exists now?
Anywhere.
Everywhere.
Anywhere, but
Now,
So what everybody's used to doing?
in other words, if you've got a house and you're parking in front of your house, or you have relatives that come visit you, or neighbors come visit you,
in front of the Artisan Park.
ain't allowed. That's what you try to propose. Now, the county's backed off on it and says, the CDD, you have it within your documents to control this. Unfortunately, the CDD doesn't have any documents that say this. Okay, so our issue is that we need to go as forward as residents and say, this was approved, when they did the main development of the place. It was all approved by the county, so don't start changing the rules. Part of the rules is that, part of the problem is that whenever they respond, they bring a hook and ladder truck down there to respond with whatever fire rescue truck is there, mainly to haul people. You don't need a huge hook and ladder truck in most of Celebration, except for Celebration Place over there where you have 5-story buildings. And in fact, in St. Cloud, they bought a smaller, in fact, in St. Cloud, they bought a smaller truck to access the streets. You like it, huh?
Well,
and that's what we're concerned with, okay?
It's every street in town, basically.
And it's basically, if you look over here at what the county has done as far as striping, I would like the county to stay out of Celebration. Okay, they made a mess of the striping. Okay, they took a lot of parking places away from us, and they make it very difficult to travel our streets.
Jack, it creates jobs for the striping people, okay?
And unstripe it.
I think the stripes look pretty.
But well, it destroys Celebration. Your housing values will go down. You can't park in front of your house. Can't have people visit you.
Exactly.
So that's one of the issues that we're facing.
I will be selling parking spaces behind my house, though, because I do have a large driveway pad.
I do that, too.
I just want to reiterate to those that we still have in the audience and those that are watching or will be watching this later on, it is an important issue to talk about the on-street parking because it would be detrimental to this community to lose all on-street parking. But I do want to say, though, that Deputy Chief McAvoy made statements in meetings, and I have spoken personally with the Deputy County Manager who has said he's overstepped his authority on what can be done. They have in email writing that they're not pursuing this right now, but it doesn't mean we want to let it go. Well, the plan has been all along to show up to the commission meeting, to present the petition and let them know that we still, there were 3 recommendations, I believe, that were made in that petition. We'd still like to know where they sit with that and what they're going to do, because we don't want this to be tabled and then when we forget about it, be brought back off the table 2 years down the road, and now we lose all of our on-street parking. But just to show you that, I mean, the statement that was made was not only to remove all on-street parking, but to also remove all
trees,
easement trees, and that's just not. That's
you can
not
imagine
feasible.
what Celebration looked like without trees.
Right.
And we, I'm sorry, I was going to add something to it. Oh, basically, we closed the petition a month ago or so.
It's been a couple weeks.
It's got about 1,500 signatures on it. I don't know if we could do an extra written addendum, give it to Rand and have him get another 40 signatures on it real quick, or whether that matters necessarily.
I think a part of the August 1st newspaper article needs to have link for that petition as well as maybe the petition.
But we've already closed the petition.
But our own director, Mr. Opegard, started the petition, so I don't think it's that much for him to open it back up again if he wants to.
Can you open it up?
I don't think it's closed. I'm checking it.
Yeah, I think it's still available, but it's just a matter of accessing the link. And I believe it is still, and if not, we can email it.
Is it still open?
Yeah, it's still open.
So I think we're at a point where it's important. We still want to make sure that the commission hears your voices, but it's not pitchforks and torches at this meeting. I think it's to make sure to keep on the forefront that
and try to reach some closure.
Right.
Well,
close that door.
Right.
Well, that's it. Give us a definitive thing, because the county says, well, we still want to come back and talk to you about it.
If you show up. If you show up with
writing,
sorry,
we don't let the commissioners give us any verbal.
If you show up with 100 people or more during a daytime meeting, they're going to feel more seriousness out of that than if a few people go, and that's why we're going to put it out in the paper, because we'd like to have a decent showing down there for this issue, which is definitely a critical community issue.
And Steve is exactly right. You have to bury it, put the lead over it, and then the dirt before you're sure it's gone. You can't assume that it's not coming back.
Well, and then we go, there's other issues that we have to deal with. I mean, one of the good things is the county's talking about putting a police station over there where the old Publix is. I would like to really push that.
Well,
okay, and then the reason for that, it's not only for us, but the hotels, they're demanding it down there. You got 2 30-story hotels going down there by Krispy Kreme down there, okay, and Cracker Barrel.
And the other issue is, if they really do believe that the trucks that are at 72 are too big for our streets, we can have the county buy trucks that are more narrow, that can get down those streets without any issue with an on-street parking. It's just a matter of retooling 72 for the thinner trucks.
One more statement, Jack. I think it's important when you go to talk to the commission at the 14th meeting that it is focused on this on-street parking petition.
That'll be it.
But the meet and greet with Commissioner Chowdhury, their emails, those are the right avenues for residents that want to express concerns for those other issues.
Well, Rand had asked if I had issues.
No, I agree.
So
I
I've moved beyond the parking issue.
Jack, you got a lot of issues.
I've got a lot of issues, yeah. Okay. And the civic court is an issue as far as I'm concerned. We could use the county's help in getting it done. Yeah. They've been very, very cooperative in the planning department, but we need to push the golf course, TCC, and several other people in order to get this thing to work. Sir?
Jack, this is my own personal opinion, but I've heard it as long as we've been here. It causes me to say I just would urge caution with the tone that is taken by either the board or residents, because it's pretty much a known fact that many of the other supervisors have some real negative feelings towards Celebration and its residents.
Okay, Mark, I promise I will not speak.
Okay, can we go off tape for a second to close this? Yeah.
Well, if you adjourn the meeting.
Let's adjourn. We're adjourned.